Hey everyone, I am back. It's Dr. Hammond here with your mental health moment. Hope that you are doing well. I hope that your friends and loved ones are doing amazing as well. And I hope that you have been really taking the time for yourself throughout your mental health journey. I hope you're celebrating even the small successes and who you're changing into for the better. I hope you're celebrating all of those things. So, on today's mental health moment, I'm going to be talking to you about a pretty serious topic, something that affects millions of people throughout the globe, and that is the topic of depression. Because depression can be really difficult. Unfortunately, depression is something that is not necessarily understood by everyone. So if you have struggled with depression or you know someone that has struggled with depression, on today's mental health moment, this is really about how you can learn to help yourself or help a loved one in your life that's coping with depression. One of the things before I start to get into the tips here that I want you to remember is that depression is not something you can just snap out of it. It's not easy to deal with depression. So to say to someone, oh, just think positively, can be really difficult for a person that truly has depression to hear, because it's not a light switch. It's not something necessarily that you turn on and off. It's also normal, however, to have a bad day. It is normal to feel sad. This is a normal human emotion. But when you think about clinical depression, when you think about a disorder, again, affecting millions of people throughout the world, this is something that has to happen over 2 weeks or more. So keep that in mind. If something has happened to you with your friends, your family, your coworker, or someone around you, and you are sad about it, maybe you're crying about it, you're upset about it for 2 or 3 days, and you're fine after that and you move on, that is not considered clinical depression, a depressive disorder. It has to be at least 2 weeks or more long. However, there's a lot of different parts that make up depression. So it's not just feeling sad, there's a lot of other components to that. And most importantly, it is so critical that if you really are feeling so depressed, I'm going to give you some tips again for you to try at home. I'm going to give you some tips that you can share with loved ones in your life. But if you try all these things, or you've tried other things before and you're just so frustrated and so overwhelmed, I really encourage you to reach out to a professional who specializes in mental health, who truly understands depression and someone who can help you through this process. Because depression, as I mentioned, is not easy. It really is not easy. I've met hundreds of people with depression, and depression can happen to anyone. I also want to say that before I get into the tips. It's not just, there's a lot of stereotypes about depression. It affects people from all walks of life. It affects people no matter how much money you have. It affects you no matter what you look like. It affects you, it affects everyone, potentially. It can affect everyone. So I want you to keep that in mind, because again, there's a lot of stereotypes about who has depression, who can get depression. Oh, I could never get depression because of this or that. Absolutely not true. So one of the tips that I want to give you when it comes to depression is really thinking about using your gut instinct. You know yourself best. You spend the most amount of time with yourself, with your thoughts, in your body when you feel like something is really off. When you feel physically you're just not feeling well. Maybe you can't sleep. Maybe you've lost weight or you've gained weight. You don't have an appetite. You don't feel like doing the things you used to do. You're having trouble concentrating. All these parts of depression. And you know that this is not typical for you. Listen to your gut instinct. I really encourage you to do that. Listen to your intuition. Your body gives you a lot of signs. Whether it's you're starting to feel aches and pains, maybe, and really take these things seriously. Because again, depression is absolutely treatable, but it's something that can be really devastating for some people, and for other people, they learn how to cope with depression, and they can indeed, millions of people can indeed function throughout their daily lives. So that's my tip number one for you, to please take it seriously, your emotions seriously. Please listen to your gut instinct and your intuition when you feel like things are just really off for you, before you get to a darker place, because there's a lot of warning signs for depression. And some of the things, as I mentioned before, your appetite, having problems sleeping, not wanting to do the things you did before, feeling sad, maybe you have thoughts of harming yourself in some way. All those sorts of things and more are signs of depression. Now, what I don't want you to do is hear these things and hear these signs and go, oh my gosh, I have clinical depression. Please do not self-diagnose. Please, I know it's hard. Do not go on google.com and look up depression and find something and convince yourself that you are depressed or not. I know it's so tempting though, because a lot of people play what I call Dr. Google and look some things up. There's a lot of misinformation on the internet. There's a lot of good information, reputable information, but there's also a lot of very false information. You may hear stories from others. You may read things a lot. There's not everything is true on the internet. So keep that in mind. If you're doing your research, the best thing for you to do though is to reach out to a mental health professional. If you ever need help finding someone, please reach out to me, drnekeshiahammond.com, Dr.Hammond on Instagram, Positive Thinking with Dr. Hammond on Facebook. You can Google me and find how to get in touch with me. But please reach out if you need a referral of any kind to a mental health professional, and I will be sure to help you to find someone. The second tip for you is going along the lines with getting help. If you need help, is to get help early. The earlier you can get help, the better, just like anything, whether it's a physical issue, whether it's mental health, the earlier you can get treatment, the better. The sad thing is, it's so hard. A lot of the research shows that most people, of course, because of the stigma of mental health, most people are waiting years before they get help for a mental health issue. Years. And it really saddens me as a psychologist, because there's so much heartache and pain that's preventable when you seek help early. So it is so critical. If you have someone in your life that you're concerned about, if you have someone that you think may have depression, reach out to them in a way that you know would work for them. There's no one size fits all. This could be someone that you live with. It could be a family member outside of the home, or a friend, your coworker, your neighbor, your whomever that you're concerned about. Try your best to reach out to them in a way that is supportive of them. And again, there is no one size fits all with that, because people respond in different ways. But it's really, really critical to get help early. The third thing that I want you to think about, the third tip, is when you really start to analyze in your life your support systems, thinking about what you have or who you have, is it enough? So for some of you, the answer is yes. For some of you, you say, Dr. Hammond, I have such a strong support system in my life right now, which is amazing. And I'm excited to hear that for you. And for some of you, you will say, I don't. I don't have enough individuals in my life that can help me through this dark time, or maybe you're more prone to feeling depressed, or maybe right now you're concerned if you have depression. If that is the case, then I would encourage you to get into a place where you start to have better support systems. Support comes in many different forms. For some of you, you may need to get connected with additional mental health resources, which looks like sometimes there's online forums, reputable online forums for mental health and help. Some of you may say maybe you need to utilize your spirituality more. Maybe it's in your place of worship for you to get additional help and support. Maybe there's other family members that you need to reach out to that would be supportive of you, but they're not necessarily sure what's happening with you, but you feel comfortable enough to speak with them, as well as mental health professionals. There's a whole team of people that you can have in your corner and in your life to help you through these times. So I really encourage you to think about and to analyze, where is my support system? Do I have what I need to be well? And again, there may be some people that you need to limit some of your time with, and there may be some people that you need to be spending more time with, people that are supportive of you. But I really, again, take a minute to assess that for you. What do you need to move forward to be better? That's what Mental Health Moment is about. In case you're watching this video for the first time, it's about learning ways to be better. It's about learning on your mental health journey, learning what you need to be well, to be emotionally well, which is so important in life. So that's the third tip. The fourth tip is something you've heard before, but I'm going to remind you of these things because if your habits are not properly aligned for your good, for the benefit of you, for your positive mental health, it's gonna be difficult, and it's gonna be challenging, and you're opening yourself up potentially, not from a place of blame here, but you become a little bit more vulnerable to having depression. And again, not from a place of blame, but that's just what happens mentally. So the habits I'm talking about are eating, are exercise, are sleeping. Do you have any negative habits that affect your body in any way? Smoking, excessive use of alcohol or drugs, or any of the things that can affect you physically and emotionally that can set you up to feel more depressed, or cannot contribute to making you feel better. And what I mean by that is that there's a lot of studies that show that exercise, I know, depending on who's watching this, some of you are excited about exercise and some of you are like, Dr. Hammond, that's not my thing. I don't like to exercise. But a lot of studies have shown that exercise is an excellent way to treat depression. Is it curing it? No. None of these are cures, by the way, but there are things that you can do to treat, to supplement mental health counseling if you need that, or to do things in your life to try to prevent depression and trying to cope with these things. So I really encourage you to exercise, though, in the way that works for you. Again, some of you may like to take walks. Those count. That's exercise. Moving your body. Some of you may like to run. Some of you may like to go to the gym. I mean, there's a ton of ways to exercise. Very rigorous exercise, taking it easy. Everything counts as long as you're moving your body. And again, you're helping yourself to cope with depression, if that is something that's affecting you. But most importantly, managing your emotions, which is going to be critical. The other thing, a fun thing, a fun tip for you to think about is work on ways to increase the activities that make you happy. Now, I know because I've spoken to many, many people that have said, but Dr. Hammond, with this COVID-19 pandemic, I have not been able to do fill in the blank, something that made me happy. A lot of it has been taken away. I've heard a lot of that. And while that may be true, I would highly encourage you to think about what are some other things that make you happy. There may be things right now, depending on where you're at in the world, depending on the nature of this COVID-19 pandemic, there may be things that are limiting for you that you did used to enjoy. But what are things that you can do, even if it's in the comfort of your home, that bring you joy and that make you happy? These are the types of things, again, depression is not something where you can say, well, I'm just going to do something that makes me happy and I'll feel perfectly better and be cured. Not, absolutely not. It's not that simple. But what does help is when you start to do things, start to think about telling your brain, I am taking a step forward to try to do something to make me happy. I am celebrating the small victories in my life. If you have been depressed where you didn't feel like walking outside, but you were able to, in a moment, go outside and take a walk, 10-minute walk, guess what? Celebrate that. If that's something that made you happy, celebrate it. Your brain physically starts to light up when you do things that make you happy. And that's something that's actually helpful to treat depression. Now, sometimes it can be hard to start those things because of the depression. But if you're at a point where you can, if you have a good day and you can do something that brings you joy, that will be something that can positively affect your mood. So I would highly recommend that. Plus, it's fun. Plus, it's fun. Allow yourself to have fun. Allow yourself to play. Even if you're I don't care how old you are watching this. It doesn't matter your age. You could be a teenager watching this. You could be 85, 90, 95 years old watching this. It doesn't matter your age. Never forget to have fun, to have playtime, and to do things that you enjoy. And my other tip for you, maybe you're watching this and you're thinking right now of someone who you know that is really struggling with depression. I would highly encourage you to make sure you're checking in with them. Depending on who they are and what state of mind they're in, they may or may not respond, but it's really important that you are reaching out because it matters to that person. I've met many an individual over my time as being a psychologist who has said to me that someone's text message, I'm talking about simple things, you all, a simple text message, how are you, has literally saved their life. Every time I hear those stories, it's so amazing to me because we forget sometimes how our simple our simple things we do, the simple task of checking in with someone and saying, "Hey, how are you?" uh, can be so meaningful. And again, I kid you not, there have been people who were thinking about taking their lives to that level, to that extreme, and did not, because that day they received a text from someone checking in with them and they said, wait a second, someone actually does care about me. Because what depression does sometimes for some people is it tells you a lot of lies. Depression gets you into a state where you have negative thoughts that are not true about you or your life. So someone with depression may think no one cares about me. No one loves me, no one cares about me, and which could or could not be absolutely, it could be not true. And when you check in with someone and someone goes, wait a minute, someone checked in with, wait, oh, so someone does care about me. It could totally be life-changing for that person. So I encourage you to do that. And again, depending on who you're thinking about right now that is affected by this, you want to approach them in different ways. I would highly not recommend that you say, that you come from any sort of place of judgment. Oh, I think you're depressed. You seem depressed. You need help. Here's someone's card for counseling. Those are hard, depending on who it is, unless you're very close to them. Those are hard things for people to hear, especially with the stigma of mental health. But again, just checking in, even saying, how can I help? I noticed whatever it is you noticed. How can I help? I'm here to support you. It really goes a long way, especially with everything that has happened. With COVID-19, there was a study done where it said that 22% of adults in America either moved or they knew of someone who moved. 22% of US adults after the pandemic, as compared to back in 2019, it was 10%. And I don't know about you, but moving is a very stressful event. So, in the midst of a global pandemic and thinking about having to move, and some people being forced to move, and all the stress that comes with that alone, there's plenty other things to be stressed about. It can be really difficult. And as a reminder, just because you see someone's social media pictures, videos, or whatever it is that they post once every couple of days, it tells you absolutely nothing about what's really going on in their life. So I would strongly encourage you to reach out to others and make sure you're checking in with your loved ones right now. That's the best way. I've gotten that question so often, so I wanted to share some thoughts with you on that. I've done so many talks and speeches to different groups about how to deal with strong emotions, how to deal with depression and anxiety. And one of my tips is always to be checking in with others, or checking in with you, checking in with your loved ones, because it's just so important. And similarly to that, as I wrap up here, and the last tip I want to leave you with is also making sure that you surround yourself with others who are uplifting to you. Surrounding yourself with social media that's positive. Surrounding yourself with things, if it's pictures around you, if you have a dry erase board, I know I do, with motivational things, because again, this is not a cure for depression. But what happens is when you think about changing your mindset, if you tune in to only the negativity that's around you, which there's a lot with the news and social media, and there's a lot of traumatic things that are thrown at you There's a lot of traumatic events. There's so much that's happened with COVID-19, the pandemic. The list goes on and on. It's overwhelming and it's frustrating. But if you take the time to also surround yourself with positive people, surround yourself with picking, there's a ton, picking positive social media uh, accounts to follow, that can really, really help your mindset. I know personally, I don't even know how many positive, inspirational social media things that I follow a lot because I like to get those things in my feed too. And for those of you who know me, you know that I work a lot with the media. So I have to keep up with a lot of negativity, unfortunately, to provide consultation with mental health issues and things that happen in the media. So I have those things on my feed, but I also have positive things on my feed. I want to see, I like nature. So I want to see beautiful sunsets and sunrises. I want to see positive quotes. I'm usually sharing them in my Instagram stories for those of you who follow me. But it's so important. Again, I strongly urge you to make sure that you're staying uplifted in whatever way that works for you, whether that's through maybe it's your place of worship and there's a way for you to stay uplifted in that way. Maybe it's friends and family and they're sending you positive messages. Maybe you send yourself a little note and put an alarm on your cell phone and send yourself a positive message. Whatever it is that you need, there's so many different ways. Do what works for you. But there's so many different ways that you can work on staying uplifted. But I highly, highly, highly suggest that you really start that practice. And again, just as a reminder, there's a lot of things that I've mentioned today when it comes to battling depression and thinking about things that you can do. This is a very small list of things. There are so many more. But I wanted to share with you a couple of tips and again remind you, depending on the severity of depression or sadness that you may be feeling, to really reach out to someone who is specialized in depression, someone that has worked, a mental health professional who has worked with depression to really help you further in the journey. It's a journey. It absolutely is a journey. But the positive thing of it is that when you do learn to manage the sadness that comes up related to different things in your life, you have a whole new outlook on life. I've met, oh my goodness, I've met so many individuals who unfortunately have had such, gosh, such traumatic, horrific things, unfortunately, that happened to them. And they were sad about it and they were depressed about it, but they learned how to get through. They learned for them, in some cases, forgiveness. They learned how to get to a place of mindfulness. They learned how to reach out for support and through that journey really became a different person, an amazing person, frankly. So again, it's completely possible to really cope with depression. Um, uh, for some people, it is a battle. It's a lifelong battle. For some people, they may have it once or twice in their life and never again. It just varies per person. But the best thing, again, that you can do is to try some of these tips, to reach out to a mental health professional if you need this, to utilize resources. There's a lot of resources. Uh, there's so many different crisis hotlines you can reach out to, free, talking to someone again, or speaking to someone, a mental health professional. So there's a lot of different resources that you can do. I would highly encourage you. You can also look at the American Psychological Association, for example, APA.org. They have a lot of great information. There's helpguide.org, also great site with information related to mental health. There's NAMI, N as in Nancy, A, M as in Mary, I.org. Also a great organization, National Alliance on Mental Illness. And the list goes on and on. If you need more resources, again, feel free to reach out to me. But again, continue in this journey. This is not an overnight process by any means, but it's absolutely positively possible to live with depression, or if someone you know has depression, to feel happiness again. It really is possible. There are some things that have to be put into place, but there are ways to have a better quality of life, which is most important. So if you need me, you can reach out to me, drnekeshiahammond.com, or on Facebook, Positive Thinking with Dr. Hammond, Instagram, dr.hammond. With any questions that you have, resources that you need, I am more than happy to help you. So take care of yourself, and I will see you on the next mental health moment.